So recently I watched on Netflix a documentary. It's a short documentary, only 57 minutes long, and it's quite entertaining. I found it humorous and disturbing all at the same time. I'm talking about Trainwreck, the Cult of American Apparel. This film tackles the rise and fall of the clothing brand American Apparel and how it all traces back to the organization's founder, Dov Charney.
I'm slick and all the women love my clothes. Gotcha.
It was founded in 1989, but it was in its heyday back in the mid 2000s, when like Uggs were like really hot, or when Juicy Couture was really hot, and when everybody was wearing those velour tracksuits. American Apparel was on the rise back then. His leadership style was questionable. His business decisions were questionable. His controversial management style, everything was questionable. And he was kind of like a cult leader, hence the name. So, for those of you who don't remember, American Apparel, their advertising was very risque, a la Calvin Klein in the 80s, if you were even around that time. But it was very soft corn, if you will, And so, this documentary follows former American Apparel employees. They were given their first-hand stories of their time spent with the company, as well as around Charney. Dov Charney. We're just going to call him Dov. We're not going to say Charney. To fill in the bulk of the content. So this one dude, his name was Johnny Makeup, and he was a drug addict, phone sex operator, SMEC, who found salvation. He found his life at American Apparel. Eventually, he worked his way enough into Dov's inner circle that he spent some time actually living in Doug's Silver Lake mansion. And then there was this Carson, who was 17 years old, who wanted to rebel against his Mormon upbringing when he made his way to American Apparel, a place that quickly made him feel powerful, important. So imagine being 17 years old, 18 years old, in your early 20s, getting all this power from a company. Because they all mentioned that the interview process wasn't even an interview process. Like Johnny Makeup said, he stood in line. He once interviewed for other fashion jobs and found himself, being denied. But he stood in line and they just basically hired him like, oh, you're hired, just based on look. And a lot of these people were based on look. And I feel like a lot of them were hired based on they were easily manipulated and easily controlled into submission to doing what Dov wanted them to do.
Got mind control over Debo.
Because these were young people, inexperienced people in the world as well as in careers. So they just thought, hey, Dov must know what he's talking about. And Dov's management and leadership style was often very volatile. He would yell at people he would yell at hundreds of people on the phone, point you out, and then laugh about it. He'd make a little joke. So it's like on one hand, he's really evil, but he's funny at the same time, said one of the employees.
Then everybody go back to work because this is a business and we're in the business of being in business and we're doing business. Nobody's business. Do it. Business.
This is the sentiment of a lot of them. They all felt like Dov was, he's likable. He's our boss. We can't leave here. I mean, we have all this power. I mean, he's given us, like somebody was 25 who had her own assistant. So, if you don't know anything about pitching, someone young in their career, you don't necessarily get face to face with the CEO and you're able to pitch ideas. And the next thing you know, you're on a plane to LA, living in a mansion because Dov allowed you to come in.
What you gonna do, Claude? What you gonna do, huh?
I mean, this happened to a 25-year-old EJ. She's like a self-described hipster. When she was picked up by the clothing brand, she had 2 phones, a direct line to the CEO, and she was living it up like as a 25-year-old. Like imagine that, like having all this power at 25. Then there was Michelle, whose first introduction to American Apparel was from stealing from them before, wearing that shoplifted shirt to her interview. So Dove was hiring people who had nothing to lose. He was hiring people who were basically down on their luck. And that's why I kind of relate this to the Diddy trial.
Who's the master? Show up!
Because a lot of people are just, I guess, confused as to why some of Diddy's employees, particularly like a Capricorn Clark or some of his other assistants who stayed with him so long, like one guy on trial said, oh, he was like a god amongst men, but yet he needed to leave there. Because that's the thing, like the boss can be charming and insightful on one hand and very belligerent on the other hand and volatile. But it's like, as a young person, you don't know what's right or wrong. You don't know if this leadership style is right or wrong, especially if you then come in with a solid, grounded persona or person yourself.
I don't know.
If you came in uncertain, like one guy who was a drug addict, then of course you will fall for anything. You will think that this is the way. You would think that Dove's leadership style is okay. Now, though American Apparel was founded on the principle of we're all American, we're an American-owned company. Everything's made in America. We don't have a sweatshop mentality. So they had an audit and over 1,500 of their employees were illegals.
You better run before the police is gone.
Johnny!
So that's when the fall first started. The fall started during that time. The workers had fake documents. And so much for that sweatshop mentality being gone, sweatshop free mentality. Dove was running a shaky business. And something else that's like similar to the Diddy trial, one of his most egregious misdemeanors called out in the documentary was there were multiple SA and sexual harassment charges against him. However, he had them sign a non-disclosure where they could not go to court. They would have to go to arbitration. So the documents really prohibited them from speaking out against him and effectively silencing the women.
Gotcha, bitch.
So there was no true justice done. So the documentary is only like an hour long, but it is sure to entertain. And what's really entertaining is what you see at the end. You see where Dove is now. Because Dove was partying it up. And there were so many videos confiscated, much like the Diddy trial, of Dove walking around in underwear, being inappropriate with employees. And he had women, it was basically like Dove's angels living with him. And Dove's angels would basically go to the employees in the stores and factories and say, hey, Dove wants you to do this. So he had these women, these young girls at that, doing things for him, but he also had them hook, line, and sinker because they couldn't talk about him publicly.
Honk the horn on their ass. Toot, toot, boop, boop. Bam.
They couldn't bring him up on charges publicly. Oh, here's another thing. So Dove, with all his employees in the beginning, he gave them the book 48 Laws of Power. Or is it 48 Laws to Power? Which I don't know if any of you ever flipped through the book 48 Laws of Power. It basically tells you how to not be manipulated. It gives you keys and rules to the game of life. And it can be used, in my opinion, it can be used in an evil way or in a positive way. But it's up to the person who's reading it and I guess your interpretation, much like the Bible or whatever. You could take the book for what it is, but the funny thing is none of these employees read the book. And when it was all said and done, they started flipping through the pages. Let me pick this book up, and realized that they in fact had been manipulated by Dove from tactics in 48 Laws of Power.
But like a sucker, you walk around, and like a sucker, you going down.
And incidentally, the author of 48 Laws of Power, I believe his name is it Dave Green or Bob Green, was on the board of directors of American Apparel. And eventually he was the one who kicked Dove off. And guess where Dove is right now? I'm just going to leave it right here. Like and subscribe. Drop us in the comments and tell me your thoughts.